This is the Employer Panel exploring careers in tech here at Ivy Tech Community College in Central Indiana's LaunchLab, the IT Career Studio. With that, I would love to go around the panel and ask you to give me 5 words to describe what you do. Can I start with you, Teresa?
Sure. Let me see if I can count though. I might have a problem with that.
It's we don't have to stick to 5, but you know, short.
I'll keep short. Our tagline is, we connect fiber optics so you don't have to. So we connect fiber optic cables so you don't have to. So we do outside plant work for fiber optics to make all this possible.
Right. That's awesome. Thank you. Christine?
Yes. So I did come up with 5 words, and it was help teams become high performing.
I love that. And for our folks who don't know, Christine is a Scrum Master. I guess we should have done introductions, but she's a Scrum Master for Salesforce on the business team. And Teresa works for TAK Fiber Optics, also known as TAK Electronics. Going back and forth on that? Okay.
Yeah.
And then next we have Zach Cardwell, who is a data and analysis
scientist. Yeah.
Scientist. For Vertex Intelligence.
Yep, I'm the VP of Data Science at Vertex Intelligence. What we do is build technologies for all sorts of companies using mathematics and a lot of programming and all that. Yeah, that's quite a bit more than 5 words, but there we go.
I love it though. And Roger, would you introduce yourself and then tell us what you do in 5 words?
Sure. Roger Underwood, CEO at Techlocity. I did take it as a math equation, so I came up with 5 words. Okay. But we support clients' technology needs. We do it 24/7, 365. I did it. Yeah.
Yes.
I do homework.
All right. Mr. Tim Stone, please tell us who you are and your 5 words, please.
Sure. My name is Tim Stone. I work for Red Van Workshop, which is a Salesforce implementation partner. What we do is connect brands with their customers using personalized messaging.
That's wonderful. And Mace, welcome.
Yeah, I can maybe narrow it down to 4 words, but it's pretty easy because it's IU Health's core values. So compassion, teamwork, excellence, and purpose are 4 core values at IU Health. But to dive in a little bit about me, I'm an intermediate talent acquisition consultant overseeing our information services division at IU Health.
Wonderful. Hi, Damien.
Hey, how are you?
And Roberto. Welcome. These 2 fine folks are from Sophos. Go ahead and give me your 5 words and maybe talk a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So in 5 words, we identify and neutralize cyber threats. So I'm the manager for the Sophos Managed Threat Response Team, and we are a 24/7 managed security service provider.
Wonderful.
Yes, they are.
And I am a senior talent acquisition specialist for Sophos, and I recruit these folks that report to Damien.
Oh, that's nice. You're doing a good work. And finally, John Rogers. The man, the myth.
Oh. Okay, so I'll do a 2-parter because there's so I'm the director for strategic workforce planning at the Indiana Office of Technology, and I won't count on my fingers, but I'm tempted to. IoT is the state's IT, infrastructure provider. I think I'm good there. As far as like my role, though, I develop, strengthen, and empower our workforce.
That's wonderful. I very much appreciate that.
And I'm putting man, myth, legend on my business cards. So
wonderful. And your email signature, right? And as you all know, I'm Jessica Jagger. I'm the Career Experiences Specialist. So I'm here to connect students with employers in a variety of ways, including these kind of panels, but also through work and learn experiences like job shadows and internships, or even project-based internships. And hopefully we can get you back on campus for some of those awesome recruiting events that are coming up this fall. We also have with us Pat Benner and Joe Perry. Those are 2 of our program department chairs here within the School of IT. Pat do you want to introduce yourself real quick to the panel?
Sure, glad to.
Hate to put you on the spot.
Well, an hour ago I was in my office in Indianapolis, and now I'm at home in Lafayette.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, my name is Pat Benner. I'm the department chair for the NETI, networking, server administration, and IT support programs for the Indianapolis campus. Joe?
Joe Perry. I am department chair for cybersecurity, database, and informatics. I forgot for a minute. And then I kind of do other things as well, so.
All right, and then last but not least is my counterpart, my partner in crime, Drew Carey. He's the IT career coach, so he's providing guidance to our students before they come to me about how to land internships or how to talk to you guys as recruiters. Drew?
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, besides, the kind of the mechanical pieces of, helping them develop a powerful resume, interviewing skills, developing online presence, I'm really interested in talking to our students and creating workshop experiences about employability skills. So, kind of being engaged on the job, effective communication with coworkers, things like that. So my interest in all of this is really getting a better understanding of what all of you are seeking, what's important to your companies in a candidate, in an intern. So yeah, that's what I do.
Thank you so much. So I apologize, I just got a student message. They're having trouble logging in, so that's probably what's going on. Let's start this question with Zach, because I'm really interested in how you even got started in this field of data science and analytics.
Yeah, so I had a feeling that this one was going to be mine, because the first thing anyone asks a data scientist is how did they get into data science? So I was a physics major back at Purdue, lots of math and all that. And I was lucky enough to graduate from Purdue right in the middle of the last recession, the Great Recession. And I was working at a grocery store at the time. And so I moved up to the corporate IT side of the grocery store, Marsh Supermarkets, and worked on their help desk. Now, I started looking at the problems that were coming into that help desk: server problems, cash register problems, business problems in general. And what I started realizing is that I could use the mathematics that I learned back at Purdue in order to solve these problems. And so I kept doing that, not really knowing it was data science, for a few years. And then I happened to meet my business partner, my current business partner, Tyler Foxworthy, just to talk about math one time, and bam, suddenly I'm in the field. And when you talk to a lot of data scientists that are out there, at least the ones that I've spoken to, it tends to be that kind of path. It's kind of like you're kind of ping-balling around, and eventually you end up in data science. There are some degree programs that are kind of coming through now. We're going to see how that kind of transitions over the next few years. But yeah, that was my start.
That's great. And what about you, Chris? I mean, how does one become an awesome Scrum Master?
Well, I too became a Scrum Master mostly by accident. So I took a coordinator job at Indiana University, mailing stuff to the students across the state of Indiana, encouraging higher education. We got a bunch of mail back because of bad addresses, and the DBA team did not update them before the next mailing, and we got the same batch back. So that drove me nuts because I was wasting so much money, right?
Right.
And so I got my hands in the databases to change that, which intrigued me, and I decided I wanted to be a database administrator. So to school I went at Indiana University. I was not a traditional student. I was a late bloomer. But while I was doing this, I was also started working on some software projects and doing some stuff like that. I really got interested in software. and worked as a business analyst. But I loved the Scrum Master job because I loved that you help the teams perform and become higher performing, and just I loved that piece of it. So I just navigated there and ended up being a Scrum Master, and I love it.
That's great. I'm really interested in Roger's story. I've heard it a number of times, but I think it bears to be repeated for those that have not heard it. So, Roger, what about you?
The closet nerd.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, I went to Ball State University and got a degree in journalism and advertising. Therefore, I've spent the last 25, 30 years in IT. So it makes perfect sense, right?
Of course.
That's college for, yeah. No, I had no idea. I mean, I was interested in some technology. I'd taken a computer science minor, but I did an internship at the Finish Line and basically got to know the IT director at the time, and he needed help, and I didn't really like what I was doing, so I jumped ship from advertising marketing and started programming and writing software, and then helping Finish Line develop as they grew over time. So purely by chance, and really because of a relationship with somebody that I respected what they did, and probably taught me that I was interested in something other than what I was doing at the time.
Awesome. So then this next question kind of piggybacks off that. What kind of education or training do you have that, led you down this road? And I would like to ask you, Teresa, to kick off that question.
Sure. Actually, I started out my degree as an education from Indiana University. And so I started out to become a school teacher, but at the time they were in need of a technology person, and that was back in the early 90s. And so I decided to go that route, and then I ended up being the director of technology for a local school system for about 17 years. So I was very familiar with the data center and the infrastructure that way. In the meantime, my father had started a business back in the early 80s with cable TV, and it transitioned into fiber optics. And he was ready to retire, and I already had some background for a while with the data center, so it just kind of transitioned to the construction piece of that. So that's what we do. We do the fiber optic construction out in the field and bring it into the premise. So I've been doing this for about 9 years. So the training with the school system actually really helped with what I'm doing now.
Well, that's fantastic. What about you? Hold on, I'm almost there. Mace, that's where I was. Yeah. How did you get into what you're doing now? And in terms of education, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I actually kind of fell into IT recruitment. I graduated from Ball State with a degree in Parks and Recreation Management.
Our own Leslie Knope.
Yeah, there you go. So I worked in the Parks and Recreation sector for probably about 3 or 4 years, I think, out of school. But during that time, I had basically kind of I worked for Carmel Play Parks, which is basically kind of worked at the Monon Community Center in Carmel. Was in charge of sourcing and kind of talent acquisition for our part-time customer service staff. So that kind of gave me that recruiting and kind of staffing background. But essentially, I got into recruitment through Robert Half Technology. Was my first venture into staffing and things like that. So luckily a friend of mine from high school had an opening and knew I had a bit of a recruitment background. And I also have a twin brother that works in IT for Carmel Clay Schools. So I had a little bit of kind of a tech knowledge from that background there. So someone to lean on. And then, yeah, I've been with IU Health for about 1.5 years now, kind of obviously, bringing in talent directly to the organization.
Thank you so much. And again, I want to thank all the students for their patience with me this morning. This afternoon, I unfortunately had a typo in the URL, so that's why it took them a few minutes to get in. So human error is abound for me as well. I'm not perfect. You can take the crown away from me, Tim. So Tim, are you ready to answer a question? Because I have one for you.
Sorry, I had internet problems. Like the internet just cut out, so now I'm using my phone, so I apologize for
No, you're
that.
fine. Welcome to the age of COVID. So how important do you think networking is? And do you have any tips on like great local groups or online groups that students can get involved in to start their network?
Nope. No, I'm just kidding. I think overall that from a networking piece is not so much walking into the whole idea of networking as what it is. Like, I'm looking for a job and this is how I'm going to do it, is I'm going to talk to everybody else. I think the networking piece is more of understanding what other projects are going on, what other facets people are working towards, their goals, their challenges, and pieces like that. And then, you know, verbally talking through that. I think keeping people especially in, you know, in the current landscape of things, keeping people and relationships at the forefront of everything that you do is systematically going to allow you to naturally and unknowingly and subtly network yourself into several conversations, several opportunities to either collaborate, either provide feedback, or at least substantiate yourself as a knowledgeable resource. And that typically in itself, you know, if you keep that at the forefront, you'll be honest, you'll do no wrong, and your heart will be in the right place. And I found that networking in itself kind of naturally takes its own course, and other folks start talking about you to other people, and before you know it, the telephone game starts happening, and the networking just naturally happens in that facet. With the groups that I find myself networking with, they're typically Salesforce predominant and related. So it's really kind of tough to really do that. But there are several networking resources as far as like groups, meetings, and things like that, that throughout the, you know, because I came from Ivy Tech myself as an Ivy Tech alum. There are several different facets of looking through that through the alumni channels and seeing where those networking pieces come from. I mean, networking to me is one Google search away. It's what you choose to do with it and how you approach it that really makes the difference.
Wonderful. Thank you. Zach, you always have great insight to networking. What about you?
So I think networking is possibly the one thing that will get you ahead in tech, particularly in this area, more than anything else. I think it's important, as Tim was saying, to kind of see networking. It's really just about building relationships. Don't see it as I am going to go network. Just, you know, you're meeting some people, you're having a good relationship with them, and kind of be aware of what they're working on, and that will grow within itself. A good technical group for people to join is look up indie hackers if you're into the computer programming world and all that. They're a fantastic group. They have annual get-togethers when they can. Things are a little bit different with COVID and all that right now. And you'll really get a sense of the pulse of the Indiana tech community. And I highly, highly recommend joining that group. You'll be able to go to meetups around coding languages like Ruby with IndyRB or IndyPy with Python. And that will be your way into a career as a developer, if that's what you're interested in, or potentially other parts of the tech community.
Wonderful. Hey, Damien.
Yeah. Hey.
How about you? What kind of networking are you into? Do you think it's a big deal? Do you have any particular groups you're into?
Yeah, so I would agree with both Zach and Tim. For me, networking isn't so much about job seeking. I think that comes organically out of networking, particularly in the cybersecurity industry. I mean, there's a huge disparity between jobs and talent. So for me, networking related to cybersecurity is more about immersion in the community and growing the community. And then, you know, by virtue of that, somebody can grow as well in that industry. As far as groups, there's a few. Indie OWASP, which is a group dedicated to web application security. Circle City Con isn't necessarily a group. That's a great place to go and network. And then, of course, there's a Sophos users group for Central Indiana. So look that up.
That's nice. Wonderful. I'm going to move on to a next question because I want to make sure that all of our wonderful students that were finally able to join us can ask their questions as well. But what is the best thing about your job? And I know some of you probably have a full range of ideas on this, but try to narrow it down to one or two. And Miss Teresa, I would love to find out more about fiber optics and why it's awesome.
Well, I think one of the things that people don't know about fiber optics that makes it really awesome is it's light driven. There's when the communication coming from, you know, wherever, if it's a Comcast or a AT&T, is all driven by light through these tiny fibers that are about the size of a horsehair. And what makes, there's no amplification or anything. If there's a tiny little bend in that fiber, that data stops. And so that's part of our job, is to make sure that it has a clear path from, you know, AT&T to your house or AT&T to Ivy Tech. So I think that's the coolest part about fiber optics, is it's just all light, and to change that into data is pretty amazing.
It really is, and I don't really think that I even thought about fiber optics as a part of the tech community, but it really is the wave of the future, right? And isn't it true that 5G is going to be based off of fiber optics, or is?
Yeah, yeah. Even though that there's a lot of these wireless cell towers that are going up that are 5G, it all has to be driven by fiber optics on the back end. So it has to connect to something.
Yeah.
I kind of compare it to a gold rush right now. There are so many communities and there's so much government funding that are funding these telecommunication companies and municipalities to provide rural broadband and internet access to places that have not had it, that we're finding a great demand right now to get fiber optics out to those guys.
That's really awesome. John Rogers, you are a man of many trades and have seen many things. What is the best thing about your current job?
Best thing about the current job is just getting to put people to work for the public good, you know, here through the state of Indiana. And, you know, obviously the Indiana Office of Technology is just one small part of that, but given that we're the backbone IT provider, it's really great to, you know, with all due respect to all my colleagues here in the private sector, you know, it's really great when folks want to contribute to the mission of the public good and really support the state and its agencies and citizens by doing good IT for us. And so in the position that I have, it's really wonderful to play a what I see as a transformative role in how we approach the next 5 years of our talent development and really helping good folks to see the value of our careers.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, to wrap up this first part of the panel discussion, I'd like to pose a question to all of you, and we'll just go in order. What is your one piece of advice for new IT students figuring out, you know, what they want to pursue within the tech ecosystem here in Indiana or beyond? So I'll start with Chris.
All right, thanks. My piece of advice actually has been brought to light by so many of the panelists talking about their different career paths. So there are so many avenues in IT. A lot of different areas, right? From fiber to, you know, making software to, you know, we've got the gamut here. So I suggest that you dip your feet into as many aspects of IT as you can. And the water will eventually feel better in one of those aspects. It'll feel very homey, and you probably will find that you have found your home. But know that your world is open, and don't jump into one thing too quickly. So, and I want to also say, love your job. Find something that you love, right? Because getting up and going to work every day sucks. Even if you love your job, but if you don't love your job, it's really bad. So find that thing, dip your feet in the water.
Great advice. I should listen to that. I should record that and listen to it every day when I wake up in the morning. So Teresa, what about you? What's your piece of advice?
I agree 100%. You know, make sure that you find something that you love. We do that with our employees. We give what's called a DISC test, and we find out what our gifts and our strengths are. And everybody works differently and has different areas of expertise. We find a lot of our people are C's, which means that they are very detail oriented, which we need to have that for fiber optics. And then also trying to decide whether you like to sit at the computer or would you like to do some outside work or do some more data center work. So that's very important. And I think that finding that will definitely find a lot more happiness as you go to work every day.
Right. And you mentioned the DISC assessment, and we do have within the School of IT, at least here in Indy, we do have a variety of other kinds of assessments that students can take to kind of help them navigate to feel, feel out if they are more hands-on or more desk jockey-ish, or a little bit of both, the unicorn, so to speak. So thank you so much for that answer. Zach, what about you? What's your one piece of advice?
So I agree with exactly what's been said before, but the one thing I would add is always make sure that you're challenging yourself. If you start to get too comfortable, as far as we know, you only get to live once, and you don't want to, blink an eye and wake up when, you're about to retire and say, gosh, what did I do with my life? So always make sure you're challenging yourself, always kind of be pushing yourself to about the limit of being uncomfortable, be in a position where you don't know the answer and all that, and you'll have the best stories to tell down the line.
Wonderful. Thank you. Roger, your turn.
Okay, I'm up. Yeah, agreed. I think something that I'd put down was, try everything and pursue what you love. But maybe a little different angle. I've got a couple of college-age kids. They're talking to me about careers and what they want to do. And piece of advice, and look, early on, they've talked to me about how much money you make in this job versus how much money you make in that job. And I've tried every chance I get to steer them away from following the money and follow what you enjoy and what you're good at, and then let those things take care of themselves. Because if you enjoy what you do and you're good at what you do and you apply yourself to that, other things start to take care of themselves. And then, as other people have said, you'll find your life a lot more rewarding because you're actually enjoying yourself along the way. So
it's wonderful. And ain't that the truth for sure?
Yep.
Keep preaching.
Yep.
So Mace, what about you? What's your piece of advice? Or two?
Yeah, we talked about a few minutes ago, the importance of networking, especially around the Indianapolis market is crucial. The more people the potentially you can kind of create your own avenue into an organization that way. But kind of stemming back from my time working in staffing and kind of contract to hire and contract positions, I always recommended to those entry-level professionals, don't underestimate the importance of just hopping on a 1 or 2 week project if you can with an organization. It obviously, everyone's looking for that full-time 40 hours a week position with full benefits, but the more you can potentially get in, even if it's just entry level, like setting up monitors and desktops in a classroom or something like that. I placed a lot of individuals in those kind of short-term projects throughout my time at Robert Half, and some of them end up extending or even moving into full-time positions from there. So if you can get your foot in the door with simple project-based work, it's going to build your resume. And also kind of, kill 2 birds with 1 stone as far as, networking and showcasing your skills and things like that.
To piggyback off that, and not to hijack this flow too much, but do you have any great resources for, besides Robert Half, are there any other recommendations that you would have for those kind of short-term projects that students could look into?
Yeah, I'm going to plug Robert Half's, obviously, since it's my, former employer, but there are a ton of staffing agencies around Indianapolis, as most of you are probably aware. So, and honestly, those recruiters kind of go to work for you in a sense. They can. I know when I was with Robert Half, I would send a lot of testing out to entry level students to kind of highlight the skills and things that they were good at, and that's one way we could kind of market their skill set to employers. To try and essentially, obviously, at the end of the day, was to get starts with our companies and our clients and things like that. But yeah, I think there's Robert Half, there's Tech Systems, there's I think Anchor Point. There's just a ton of different staffing agencies that you can utilize throughout the Indianapolis area.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Damien, your one piece of advice?
Yeah. Well, I'll actually echo a couple. Going so late in the question in the round.
I know they take all the good ones, right?
I'll go ahead and echo a couple things that have already been said. Try a little bit of everything, and see what you gravitate towards. I think you'll eventually kind of funnel down to something that's really interesting to you, and kind of follow that path. The other is don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone. So for me, when I'm interviewing candidates, one of the things that I try to glean is this somebody that will dive into a challenge, dive into a problem, and not shy away. As a security analyst, you're going to see something that you've never seen before on a daily basis, and you just can't be afraid to jump into the challenge and maybe address a little discomfort.
Perfect, thank you. Does Roberto have anything to add to that?
Well, you put me on the spot.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. But I'd have to agree with all of them. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I also started off as a lawyer, and naturally here I am recruiting for cybersecurity. And just try as many things as you feel naturally drawn to. And I think making mistakes is part of progress. Usually we tend to see it the other way around. So don't be afraid of that. Dive in. And usually that would funnel, as echoing on Damien, into eventually what you love most. And don't be afraid to start all over if you're not happy with where you're at.
Right. That's great advice. And I think several of our students, we have a very diverse student population, if you didn't know. A lot of them, including me, I'm an alumni. I've come from that mindset, like it's not working out. I need to change. And here I am in adult education. So yay. John, what about you? Your piece of advice? And then we'll move on to Tim and we'll start student questions.
Sure. Such really wonderful advice, I think. And I love the do what you love element. But, I'm going to say that, one of the things that we stress right now is that it's not enough just to be the best technically. Also, you really have to, I can't underscore enough the value of being a strong communicator, both verbally and in writing. And so many people are very technically proficient, but if you can't get points across, whether that's your resume, whether it's in an interview, whether it's on work product, guess what? That great thing that you designed or that thing that you can do that's technically wonderful, nobody's going to adopt it. Nobody's going to give you the opportunity. Nobody's going to give you the opportunity to move forward, because you really have to be able to connect with folks and convey why your app is the best, why your automation is the best, why you're the best person for the job. So communication's key.
I love it. That really feeds into some of the things that we tell our students, or that we're going to start telling our students about employability skills, and communication being one of those main ones that employers are looking for. So thank you for even further solidifying that, sir. Good, sir. And finally, last but not least, Tim Stone. Your last piece, your final piece of advice, your one piece for students.
Passion. Find something you're passionate about. In the context of, I love this, but these are the smaller pieces that I don't like. I would change these. I think that is the natural curiosity or frame of mind that really pulled me through from, restaurant and retail management into the military, into aircraft aviation and maintenance, going back to school, and then now into software. Is finding your passion in something that you're naturally drawn to, but understand that there are going to be some things, some little pieces about that you don't like, but finding that you'll quickly fall in love with what you do and how you can change that. And I think that can be probably strewn across everybody's message that has gone before me in answering this question, but you know, that's really what speaks to you in finding that. Everyone says do what you love. You know, find something that you do love, but little pieces about it that you hate. With me, sometimes it's email marketing. I love email marketing, but I hate certain pieces of it. But that's another story for another time.
Yeah, we'll be sure to get you in here for a Red Van workshop experience, so you can talk all about email marketing and the joys of Marketing Cloud. Thank you so much, Tim. All right, so we do have a couple of questions coming in through the chat box, and I will answer or ask those first on behalf of the student. But if students are wanting to ask questions, feel free to raise your hand, so I know that you are interested, right, in asking your question verbally to these wonderful employers on this panel. The first question comes from Akintola, and I'm sorry if I am butchering your name. It's beautiful anyway. Where can someone who's not so hot with math thrive in IT?
You should let Zach take that one.
I was waiting for it. So there are plenty of areas of IT where if math skills aren't your strong suit, that you can really thrive in IT. I am in a very focused field that uses a lot of math, but I can tell you, like, joining a help desk, becoming a solutions architect a lot of times, jumping into a lot of development jobs probably don't require as much math as maybe what you would need for a data analyst or a data scientist position. There's plenty of jobs out there. I can promise in IT that Ivy Tech is well prepared you for in terms of math skills and all that.
Chris, did you have something to add to that too?
Oh, me? I was just saying Scrum Master. I mean, there is some math, mind you. We do agile statistics and stuff like that, but you're not as mathy as programming in that type of thing. And I think that's part of what actually kind of drew me into that and away from development, because I have my degree is in from Indiana University in development, but I'm not very good at it. And I just openly will tell you that I'm not a great developer, and I think it was the mathematical piece of it, but I loved the field and loved helping people. And so I found that niche in the Scrum Master role, and I can still talk code and see code and get my geekiness on, but I'm not involved in the math as much.
I love that. Hey, Damien, is there any kind of, within cybersecurity, is there any kind of lesser math option for a career for somebody that's not so arithmetically inclined, if that's even a word?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to tell you, I absolutely despise math. I stay away from it as much as possible, and I've been in cybersecurity for almost 6 years. Not to say that it doesn't help in certain areas. It certainly does. But like Zach was saying, there's plenty of things, even in specialized fields under the entire IT umbrella, where, you know, math doesn't come into play, or very little of it comes into play.
Great. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of our students are breathing a sigh of relief right now. Somebody, I believe, had mentioned that, you know, getting a passion project or something to show that you were engaged with IT as a piece to put on a resume. Do you like to see that kind of thing? If a student does a side project or a home lab, how do you like that presented to you as a recruiter, either on a resume or on, you know, the LinkedIn profile or an interview? Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Oh, I'll say something to that. So that is the differentiator for me. When a bunch of people are applying to be in a data science role or some technical role, a lot of resumes start looking very similar. And so if you have volunteered somewhere, or you have done some project work and you can add new things to your resume, that could really differentiate you from the crowd. you have to think about it on the other side of when people are hiring, how many resumes they might be getting in and all that. That stuff highlights your resume.
It's wonderful. Kevin B. So you're up with your question, sir.
Hey, so thank you guys for being part of this. I appreciate it. It's very helpful. So I'm a kind of a refugee from the hospitality industry. I have like 25 years experience in restaurants, including a lot of management experience. And now I'm, COVID kind of shut that down, and I was ready for that to end. But I'm not proud. I don't mind starting at the beginning in tech, but I'm just wondering what advice you might have for me to kind of represent that previous experience that I might have, even though it doesn't relate to tech, or should I not do that at all? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And I would tell you that it might make perfect sense for some people in tech. So for example, we actually support a very large restaurant chain. Technically, and your knowledge of the restaurant industry would probably be quite helpful, because you would be able to talk to and speak with clients on the other end of the phone, have empathy, understand their situation, know what's going on. You're going to have some background there that not. So I would recommend you try to find a niche that might take advantage of that, and allow you to blend those two skills together. And then, in the next evolution from a pure support perspective, you being in a position where you could actually go in and help do some solution architecting and things like that once you have a little bit more tech under your belt because of your background and what you know. So I would try to marry the two up a little bit and use it to your advantage.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'd add to that a little bit also. I'm sorry, Teresa, I didn't mean to jump in front of you there. And that's outstanding guidance. The other thing I would point to is, like, especially where you've had experience maybe in leadership, and some of the things that you did to coordinate in the service industry can translate to any other occupation. You just try to draw upon the skills that would broadly move from one sector to the other, because speaking quite candidly, sometimes it's not about having the best technician. It's about having somebody who knows how to manage, who knows how to work with people, who knows how to set deliverables and get the work accomplished, and really do the kind of the people side of the work. And in some regards, like, the tech is actually not just second, but a distant second. And again, sorry, Teresa.
No, I agree 1,000%. Actually, our director of operations was from the restaurant management field, and he had over 500 employees under him with the restaurant management. Well, he kind of downsized with us, but he is our forward-facing person with clients, and he does a wonderful job of scheduling everything that we need to have scheduled, speaking with our clients, and being that front person because of his industry in the hospitality. So and we kind of look for character and competency. So if the tech isn't all the way there, we can train them up, but the character is really important to us. So yes, 1,000%.
Excellent. Thank you.
Does that make you feel good, Kevin?
Yeah.
Kevin, if
right. And
coming from,
I come from restaurant management as well, so it's amazing how well we're received in other industries, in particular tech. I think it's because of our outstanding customer service skills, honestly.
Well, that's what it is that the ability for you to walk up to a table of people you don't even know, and quickly, and seriously, after spending 15 years, 12 years of managing, 15, 16 years in the restaurant business, that was my thing. And my older brother was like, no, I'm doing IT. He's like, you should go take a computer class. I'm like, no, that's your thing. And so we went back and forth. And so 14, 15, 20 years later, I did that. And the one major piece that is out there is the ability to talk to people, to translate things in English. And you have that ability, whether you know it or not, after performing that time and time again without even knowing it, basically cold calling a table, walking up to them, telling them something's wrong, and then telling them that you're going to correct it. Like, that skill is it's unheard of. It's not around. It can't be taught. You have to come about achieving that through experience. And so let that be your strength when you make that transition into the IT field, is that you have finding that metaphorical like database of things to articulate tech stuff to normal people speak. If you can do that, if you can connect normal people, make that connection, you'll find that broadens out, not from a sales perspective, but from a consulting perspective. It will open the doors to opportunities for you if you have that, if you harness that skill. The other piece is reading body language, reading people. Like, you'll know that right out of the gate. Like, is someone picking up what you're putting down? Are they not? Like, you can definitely tell, like, just like from being in the hospital, do they like their food? Do they like their drink? I'm telling you, it's a skill set that isn't taught through, just normal classes. That it's an acquired sense over time. So don't think yourself that you're starting over new just because you've been around the block or two and your boss is half your age. Don't ever let that scare you, because while you may have all this leadership experience, you're going to have to allow them to be the leadership, but you'll also take in all that experience and watch that from the outside looking in of the mistakes they made. Because you're going to think, Kevin, how many times did you actually make that mistake when you were running restaurants and stuff like that? Like 1,000 times. Yeah. But I mean, you take those experiences, compile them together, put the foundation on top of the fact that you have the ability to speak to people and translate IT to a marketer or to anybody else. Like I practiced it when I would go out with my wife, because nobody cares about what I do. They don't understand what I do. So if I could break it down to more digestible content, like that's how I refine the elevator speech. And again, it's not really about the sales piece, but it's going to transition into more opportunities for you to either consult or collaborate. So don't sell yourself short on that. Sorry, I'm off my soapbox, but I know exactly where you're coming from.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. We have a couple of questions from a few students regarding our cybersecurity panelists. And some of them are more centered around the academic side of things, so we can answer those later. But what do you recommend as baseline certifications for pen testing or ethical hacking for our students that are trying to get into cybersecurity?
So for pen testing in particular, a lot of people start with the certified ethical hacker. I have that cert. Granted, I took it 5 years ago or so. So obviously it's changed, but that one would be a good kind of front door. On the other end of the spectrum, the more complex, more sought after, kind of seasoned pen tester goes after the OSCP, which is the Offensive Security Certified Practitioner. That one's pretty grueling, I'm not going to lie. So try not to go for that one right off the bat. Get your feet wet, get some experience. And aside from certifications, there's a lot of stuff that can be learned just by self-learning. There's a lot of resources on the internet that I would suggest looking into. Hack the Box is one. So certifications are great. I tend to look at them when I'm looking at candidates, but it's not the end all be all. I don't only key in on those things. So that's my recommendation.
Wonderful.
Jessica, can I just put in there, like, there's no, I realize this is not really an answer that's popular, but it's a true one. There's no magic bullet for any resume either. There's no, I know that we've all been there at some point in time for some job or multiple jobs where it's like, what is the thing I can say or do or put there, or where can I go to school, or what is the thing? Tell me the thing to do, and I will go do the thing, and I will do it the best. And sadly, there's not that magic. There's not the magic bullet. It's more about if you're looking at a resume, what can I tell from you as a person, like how you've applied yourself, how you've, like, did you go to school in a 4-year program, or 2 years after Ivy? Like, did you keep your grades up? Did you do the things like Damien's talking about, where you pursued some like self-study? Like, are you taking opportunities to really explore your field and your trade craft and improve yourself? And can you talk to me about that for 5 minutes? Like, can you really convey that narrative to me as an interviewer? It's not so much about finding one answer, but just really showing like how you're very capable by applying yourself in what you do, wherever that may be.
Wonderful. That's just great advice. I am loving this whole thing. I don't want it to end, but we do have about 5 minutes left. So we did have a question from Ryan asking about, he's got a huge experience in manufacturing or construction, I'm sorry, and was wondering how that would translate into IT and dealing with somebody that's younger and just as smart as he is in IT. And does anybody want to add to that? Like we added to the hospitality industry pivot, but does it pretty much echo for construction management as well?
I would say I kind of put in there that I feel like it's the same thing. Try to apply your skills, and I don't want to plug a school in particular, but I love the fact that at Indiana University, the informatics degree is a combination of IT skills plus you have to have what they call a cognate. So we're marrying the IT skills to a business set. So you're either in business. I took instructional design. So psychology is part of it. So again, find that niche in IT that matches where you're SME. They call them subject matter experts. There's a word for it. You're a SME in your field, and now you put IT with that, and it's a glorious marriage. Quite frankly, you're in a good spot. You really are.
Yeah. So Ryan is actually a database student right now. So Zach, do you see any kind of correlation between the transition from a labor career into data?
Oh, absolutely. I can only echo all the other speakers on just how much this background will inform, what you build and your skill set and everything that you can do with it. I mean, having a construction and manufacturing background, I'm actually talking to companies in those fields right now and trying to figure out, okay, from the other end, how do I jump in and, how do we build technology for them? And I mean, bringing those skills from the other end, it's incredibly important. Knowing a business really well is really where IT starts to matter. You can have all the certifications you want, you can know all the technologies, and in my field, people like to quote how many languages they can write in and all that. But if you don't have a practical application, it really doesn't mean much to anybody. And so all of these professional experiences that you've had before these degrees, all these professional experiences where you've managed people or you've dealt with people are hugely, hugely valuable for a good company, I'll say. Yeah, you will hit some resume problems sometimes out there. You don't want to work at those places anyway. People will see the experience you have and be very happy to hire you.
That's awesome. Gosh, I hope everybody's feeling real warm and fuzzy on the inside about all these answers. So we're going to wrap up this Q&A panel with a question from my dear friend, Tracy. She is an IT academic advisor, and she has something that is absolutely amazing to ask you. Tracy, are you prepared?
Sure. So I would just echo what you have all said, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here. I many times get questions, though, from students that are more practical. While we all love to talk about follow your passion and do what you love, they say, well, I'm transitioning from this other job. I need to make some money. So would you be willing to give me one thing, just one item, whether it is a language or a certification or whatever, that a student can bring to your organization to really make themselves more marketable? And thanks again. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Miss Tracy.
Sure.
I think, as John kind of said, I mean, it's hard. There's not one thing. I know that'd be easy. I was going to talk a little bit because we talked about both Ryan and Kevin, I think, who answered the questions, who are making career transitions. Sometimes that can be a little bit of a turnoff because the fear on my standpoint would be if someone's chasing the money. But what I would want to know is if they've got some background interest and if there's been other things they've been doing which maybe pivoted them and made them choose this path. And so I would spend time kind of digging back through background a little bit. And we talked about adding side projects, adding volunteer, any of that other stuff that you can add in there that shows I have some interest here. This isn't just me making the change because that's where I think a job is today. Because at the end of the day, if you're not interested in it, you're not going to end up being that good at it. So,
and to that end also, there's a great value in identifying the places you really want to work and contacting those places and asking them this very question. Hey, I would really love to come work for X. What are the 3 things you look at that are most valuable on resumes? What are the 3 things you really want to see coming in the door? Because the answer I might give if I was hiring for, say, our IoT security team, if I was to say security plus, if you were to go down this panel, you might have 10 different answers where somebody else would say, no, not really, or we wouldn't hire anybody without a CISSP, or no, that's great, but we'd rather see like Microsoft certified folks for Azure or Power Platform or something like that. There are no wrong answers. They're just going to depend on which of us is hiring.
So I think the overall answer is do your homework on both yourself and knowing yourself, your values, your interests, your skills, but then also know those companies that are in a position to hire you and what they're looking for.
Tracy, one thing that I would highly recommend as well, as an action item today that I would recommend to each of the students is, particularly if they're going into software development or anything along those lines, is sign up for an organization like Indie Hackers and then pick an event. Maybe it's Ruby, maybe it's Microsoft, maybe it's something like that, and at least go to 2 or 3 events. They start those meetings out asking, okay, is anyone looking for a job? Is anyone hiring? Now, you can start all these conversations that we're talking about with finding out who's hiring and then asking these questions from it. And so that is a very, very, very easy way here locally to kind of jump in and see what's out there in tech.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yep, no problem. And I can send that information along to you too, if it would be helpful. So.
I am putting together a follow-up email for all of our participants today with all these, these great little nuggets of information. So you don't have to sit there and try to remember everything, guys. But I did want to follow up or close out this whole session by asking very quickly, are any of you hiring?
We're currently hiring.
Who is?
Sophos.
Sophos, yes. And Sophos actually has their position on Hire Ivy students, my students. So if you're interested in applying for that position, that's an entry-level position, right? What is the baseline requirements that you're looking for that position?
It just varies. It's really candidate specific. It could be somebody with a year or 2. It could be somebody straight out of a program. It doesn't really matter. We're not so focused in on that as it is what the candidate brings.
Wonderful. Thank you. Anybody else?
IU Health is definitely hiring at the moment. Yeah.
Wonderful.
We have a lot of our entry-level positions. They're titled IS Analyst on our careers website. One thing about just kind of that general job title is there are essentially like 5 different paths you can go through. We talked about this before, I think, Jessica, but 5 different paths you can basically go through from that analyst to venture out into other departments within IU Health. And we have 7 different departments within information services. So there's a lot of different avenues you can explore.
Of course.
What did you say the name of the company was?
It's IU Health. And Jeremiah, I'll be sending out an email with all of this great information, so you don't have to worry about it. I'll get you direct links to all the jobs, okay?
Okay, thank you.
No problem. I'm glad you can make it.
I believe that we're also doing hiring for back end and front end development, website development for based on e-commerce sites. And then I know it's some more specific Salesforce language. I know that we were recently looking for an Apex developer, which is a proprietary language. So I don't know if that's offered through as a class, standalone class through the curriculum or not. I don't think so, but
yeah, I don't think.
I just figured I'd throw it out there.
Okay.
That last one, that is.
But if someone took like a Udemy course in Apex, would that be sufficient, or they need to have actual?
They probably need to have some actual experience as well too, when it comes to the Apex thing.
Trailheads for it?
Say again?
Are there trailheads for it?
I'm sure that there is. Apex has been around from the course side for who knows how long, and yeah, I mean, there's a ton of free resources out there. Plus, Udemy and I don't know. I'm drawing a blank now that you put me on the spot, but yeah, but that is secondary to the web development, which is front end and back end, and even from a QA standpoint. I know that Red Van on that side of the house, for as far as e-commerce sites are concerned, are currently and always looking, hiring, interviewing. So yeah.
Wonderful. All right. So we've got for the state of Indiana, the Office of Indiana Office of Technology. And I do highly recommend this. You should create a profile on workforindiana.in.g.gov. I have done that, and you can actually set up job alerts. So if you put an intern or tech or IT or whatever those keywords are, you'll get weekly emails that feature those jobs that are being posted. It's been really helpful for me, at least, to get a pulse on the state of Indiana. And I'm sure the IU Health site also has that function as well. So again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for having grace and patience with me as with the URL issue. So with that, I close out this session, and I thank all of you for participating, and we can't wait to have you back on campus, either virtually or in person in the LaunchLab, to further talk to our students about careers in IT. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.